What's up guys, my name is Zeke and welcome to second episode of Adorn Films. And today we're going to talk about another movie you guys asked me to talk about, Hereditary. Hereditary has become one of my favorite movies, so let's get right into it. So, I'm actually a very big horror film fan. Movies like The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, The Thing are one of my favorite movies of all time, even outside of the horror genre. I also like some giallo films, some B-horror films, the comedy horror, so I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to horror. Now, I saw Hereditary back in the summer of 2018 when it first came out, and how do I put it? I loved the movie. It became one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and definitely the best horror movie I've seen in the past decade, maybe more. In the sad time of this, I was pleasantly surprised that movies like Hereditary can still be released on the big screen. I won't be retelling the plot of the film. I assume you guys have seen the movie, so spoilers ahead. So, the 1973 film, The Exorcist, has very unique features that I believe make it so transcending, timeless, and infinitely relevant. First of those things is that the movie was made by a director who is not necessarily a horror movie director. So he's able to think outside of the box. I'm not saying a horror film director can't think outside of the box. All I'm saying is like non-horror film director will always think outside of the box. Okay. And we actually have seen that throughout film history. Like for example, Hitchcock making the Psycho movie. Or Christopher Nolan making the Dark Knight film. Christopher Nolan definitely was thinking outside of the box. By many, Dark Knight is still considered to be the best comic book movie. I'm not saying it is the best comic book film, all I'm saying is that many people do. Secondly, The Exorcist is loved by people outside of the horror genre. That's a huge achievement. And the reason for that is that The Exorcist is never treated as a horror film by its creators. It's almost an accidental horror film. There are people who claim to be big horror film fans that don't like The Exorcist, and that's fine of course, but some of those people treat horror films like amusement park rides. They just want to be constantly scared, even if the story of the movie sucks. These people need constant stimulation by this. But I digress. Hereditary is very similar in its approach to The Exorcist. As I mentioned earlier, The Exorcist isn't made as a horror film. My mom, for example, hates horror films, loves The Exorcist. Same way, when I saw Hereditary, I saw it by myself because my girlfriend at the time hated horror films. And after seeing the film, I wanted to watch it again with her. So I convinced her to watch it, not to shock her or anything. The film is very deep and just good film, so I knew she would genuinely like it. So we saw it again, and guess what? She did love it. So what do I mean when I say these films are not presented as horror films? Well, in the case with The Exorcist, the movie is about a little girl who gets sick and whose atheist mother exhausts herself with medical advice and asks help from God. Ironically, she asks help from a priest who is on the brink of losing faith. I'm getting goosebumps just saying this. Notice I never mentioned the word devil. One can literally make the same film about a girl who has cancer and make zero references to the supernatural. The core story of the film is dramatic and relatable. What I'm trying to say, The Exorcist is a drama. And it just so happens that these kind of horror films are my favorite. I digress again. Damn it. Hereditary works in similar ways. The film makes the audience connect with its characters on a very deep psychological level. We see the characters go through a loss. We see them deal with their inner demons that we all deal with. The situation is very relatable, so the key here is that the horror aspects come into play very naturally. In it, on the other side, the situation is manufactured synthetically. So yes, even though we connect with the kids, we like them, the horror comes out of nowhere. Every scene in it ends with a loud noise and Pennywise running into the screen. what the fuck? There are jarring moments in Hereditary, like for example the death of Charlie. It does happen suddenly, but it doesn't happen out of nowhere. In fact, there are a bunch of little moments that foreshadow what's going to happen to Charlie. Just like beheading of the bird, the symbol on the pole, and the footage of the beheading on the laptop. Charlie's death and how her family deals with it is horrific. The horror consumes you. It slowly gets under your skin, keeps you on the edge of your seat. The film really dwells on the trauma, and I don't think I've ever seen a movie that does it so well. Thematically, Hereditary discusses mental illnesses, and because of that is reminiscent of similar films from the late 60s and 70s. Mainly, the film talks about how mental illnesses are hereditary. So Annie, Toni Collette's character, realizes that by literally recreating her past traumatic memories with those miniatures of hers, and then she tries to put a stop to it. But too bad, she's too late. That is the horror experience you go for watching a movie like Hereditary, a movie that sticks with you for days. Many people didn't like Hereditary because they're conditioned to jump scared, conditioned to stupidity. Again, they expect an amusement park ride instead of a movie. And of course, if that's what people want to see, it means there's place for it in the world, so let it be. And to be honest, films like Hereditary have so much impact on people like me and others who liked it, that we kind of like that these kind of movies are so rare. I guess I like that there aren't enough good movies out there. I don't know, so confusing. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you liked this short little episode of Adorn Films, and let me know which movie you would like me to talk next. Until then, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.